Welcome to summer and always ageless. I'm your host, Valerie Van de Zilver. It's summer, July, and the time of the year that we especially think of vacations and travel. As we also think of July and freedom to spend time with and visit the people who you love, your families, your friends. We want to share with you, our listeners and our viewers, trips and places and ways to have a fabulous travel experience. After all, travel is ageless and it knows no boundaries. Whether by car, plane, boat, train, or any other way you can travel, bicycle or by feet, travel is available to all, whether you're with a buddy, a family member, for a day, or for a month. So let's get started and talk about one of my favorite subjects. Welcome to Always Ageless, today with travel. So let's talk about the one thing everyone loves, a great travel experience. And let me start by introducing our special guests. First of all, let me introduce Marilyn Vincent. Marilyn is a seasoned professional in the travel industry. She's currently serving as the manager of cruise sales and marketing at Trip Matters. And to me, trips matter for sure. She brings over 2 decades of experience in brand marketing, along with nearly 20 years of expertise in large group travel. At Trip Matters, Marilyn leads a dynamic team dedicated to creating unforgettable cruise and travel experiences for her clients. Her passion for travel, enriched by her international experiences and her commitment to excellence, have made her a dynamic and valuable member to her team. She holds a bachelor's degree in business administration with an emphasis in international business and marketing. She's renowned for her excellent and exceptional leadership skills, exceptional problem-solving skills, and her ability and desire to stay in front of industry trends. All of those things sound like good qualities in a travel professional. Under her leadership, Trip Matters continues to expand its cruise marketing and its offers, providing customers with unique and memorable journeys across the world's most beautiful and memorable destinations. We're also privileged to have with us Nancy Daubert. Driven by her genuine passion for culture, travel, and a desire to help fellow wanderers plan wisely, Nancy founded Splurge Travel. She specializes in assisting empty nesters and busy professionals in crafting unforgettable vacations. And all of this sounds great to me. I'm sure it does to you, our listeners, also. With 13 years of experience working in Berlin and fluency in German, she has a distinct advantage in planning European travel. After relocating from California to Berlin in 2008, Nancy earned her master's degree in international business and accumulated over 10 years of corporate experience in project management professional. She's been fortunate to visit 40 countries around the globe and takes immense pride in helping her clients discover new corners of the earth and elevate their travel experiences. And I can tell you that I followed both of these ladies online, and they're fun and exciting and the kind of people you'll definitely want to get to know. Welcome, Nancy and Marilyn. We are so privileged to have you, and especially for me, for this very favorite topic. So welcome to summer and welcome to Always Ageless.
Thank you, Valerie. You're making us blush.
That's all right. So, of course, everybody wants to know. And I think that since, not only just since COVID, but for the last several years, people have thought that they could plan their travel online. And why do you need a travel professional? And I think that, and certainly a lot of people do plan their travel online. But other than just the simple things, maybe like even, a plane or train or whatever, why should someone use a travel professional, and especially in this day of age?
Lovely. Well, thank you for bringing that up, Valerie. We actually went through a period of the .com industry where, you're right, a lot of people started booking their own travel online, and they thought the travel agents, what we used to be called, are outdated. But we've come back with a vengeance as travel advisors now, because our main role, we're a service provider, just like if you were to go to your financial planner. So what we do is we sit down, we have a conversation, and we plan out kind of your future travel. we will save you a ton of time and the endless Googling of trying to figure out, where do I want to go? What's the right fit for me? So I kind of think of it just like a matchmaker. I don't know if you watch The Millionaire Matchmaker. We're kind of like that. So we have people come to us. We try to listen more than we talk and suss out what is the right vacation provider for this person? Where should they go? At what time of year? We talk to them about budget, about hobbies. And the biggest thing is about building the relationship. So we have a personal relationship with our clients as well as our preferred suppliers. So one of the things that we would like to touch on is there are a lot of scams out there. So by working with a professional that has insider know-how of what's going on in the industry as well as what's going on in destination, you can have a trusted person by your side that you can contact, a single point of contact. You can actually pick up the phone and you don't have to dial 1 or 5 or talk to repeat the same word to an AI robot. You call Marilyn and you say, hey, Marilyn, I really need help on XYZ, and she's going to be there for you. Or when you're in destination and maybe something isn't going maybe as you had planned, then you give us a ring and we have a direct line to us during working hours. And I think it's about building that relationship ongoing. So not just for one trip, but even small elements of trips in the future. Or Marilyn and I, if we know that a client is, dying to go to a certain destination, then when we all of a sudden see a special come out that's maybe only for travel agencies, sometimes we'll find out about things that are going on that our suppliers open up just to us, then we're going to call our client and say, hey, there's something going on right now. I just wanted to let you know. Or there's a solo traveler deal right now on a certain cruise line. So it's about building that relationship for the current moment, as well as, where do you want to travel in the next upcoming years so that we can keep our eye out. And with that, with those, the client relationship and the supplier relationship, we can oftentimes offer more value to our clients than if they were to book direct. One perfect example is that both Splurge Travel and Trip Matters are associated with Virtuoso. So through Virtuoso, you can get certain amenities when you book Virtuoso hotels and resorts. And also certain voyages, certain cruises are marked as Virtuoso voyages. So you'll be able to get onboard credit or at the hotels, early check-in, late checkout, possible upgrade upon check-in, possibly on-site credit. Some of them have $100 on-site credit. So through our relationships, oftentimes we can not always get deals, but get additional value added into a trip and just add in those little special moments that make a trip a Kodak or YOLO. You only live once type of vacation. So I think the word here is relationship, both with the industry and both with our clients, and having somebody that you can call direct.
Yeah, absolutely. Beside that, I would also add that, we are able to manage groups. We manage very large groups, sometimes quite a few hundred people. And that's something that, whether it's even just a small family group or even a large family group, we can coordinate a lot more and work with the vendors directly and contact the properties before they arrive to make sure the rooms are together. When we're working with cruise lines, we can get their dining all together. We can set specialty dining for the group. And often, again, back to the relationships, we can work with, we have a lot of partners within those organizations that we can reach out to directly and have special things set up for them on the ship. We can have meeting places for them built in. And again, sometimes we can build in, complimentary specialty dining, things like that would be above and beyond anything that you would ever get if you went directly to a cruise line. If you booked online, you would never get these services, nor would you even have those opportunities. You'd have to wait till you got on board, and then you'd probably be scrambling to try to get your whole family to eat together. So there's a lot of advantages and things we can bring, and there's really no cost to the client to do that. They're not spending extra money to have us build these relationships or use our advantages with the cruise lines or the hotels or wherever they may be. So it's really all upside. It takes kind of hassle and time out of having to manage all of these and search online for all of these things. And, hopefully we can just build this great relationship, as Nancy said, and just give so much value to them in the long haul and be a great partner with them.
So you brought up a really good point, which is, of course, the issue of cost and the fact that you're saying that it doesn't cost anybody anymore. So I'm sure there are some people listening who are going to say, yeah, but I go online and I get these deals online and I go on, I won't use the word, but the name of a large search engine company who has their own travel. And if I use a travel professional, then I can't get advantage of those lower prices. So how does that work? How can someone be assured that if they use you, they're not losing out and that they're not losing money?
I would say the prices are generally the same across the board, whether you're going direct to the carrier, to a large agency, or to a smaller agency where you're getting a lot more service. You're not spending extra money or gaining additional savings. In fact, often you're going to get more savings using a smaller agency than you would with one of the larger ones, because of our relationships and because of what we already discussed. So if you went to, for instance, Royal Caribbean directly on their website, and it says 70% off or whatever it be, we have the exact same deals. We're booking within their organization. We're not booking as us. We're booking as a conduit into Royal Caribbean's website. So it's the exact same price. But again, we're going to give you an unbiased opinion. You're not just seeing an ad that says it's a deal. We will say, hey, this may be a deal, but actually, have you considered this brand over here or this destination over here? We're going to try to give you what's best for you. And the vendors, the direct companies that they're looking to book with, for instance, a Princess or a Club Med or whoever it would be, they're trying to get you to book with them. They're not going to show you what else is out there. We can say, hey, we see other companies, maybe this Princess cruise over here, great deal, but have you considered Celebrity? They're offering right now kids free. So we have a lot of visibility that they may not even consider in their set of, options.
Or it might be a better match, right? Certain brands maybe aren't a good fit for certain dynamics. If you're bringing, multi-generations on board, maybe they find this one deal, but we're thinking, we know that supplier and we know that cruise line, we're thinking, it might be best to go with XYZ instead because of this, that, or the other. So we're kind of a non-biased partner in that regard, that we're not just selling a certain product, we're not pushing a certain product. So we want to really try to find something that's going to work for you and your family or your loved ones. So I think that's important, that we're an unbiased opinion.
Yeah, that sounds great. And is there a certain price range or a limit to what the person that you can help, the person you can serve? Someone have to be taking a cruise? Can someone come to you who just needs to make a business trip and they're just too busy to plan it themselves? I know with me, I'd rather just call you and say, this is what I need. This is where I need to go. Just get me there.
No, it's really any price. I mean, so I'd say anything is open to being done through us. Something as small as a rental car up to a full-blown vacation. And I mean, I think where you really are getting the value is somebody doing all of the homework and packaging all of those elements together. So it's not just simply booking a cruise or booking a hotel. It's all of the elements that build up to that. Are you considering things that we may, maybe needing to consider, things like visas, things like, airports or traffic or time changes, or all of these different things that they may not be considering before they make their booking, or transfers when you get to the other end. An interesting thing, it kind of struck me, we were just talking about value and booking directly. Like if you were going to look at let's just say a price of a cruise for Alaska. And sometimes people will come and say, oh, well, I see this really good price for Alaska. And it's like, well, you're right. They are advertising a good price, but there's a reason it's cheap. It's because it's a one-way cruise, which means now your flights are almost twice as much because you have to get to Anchorage. Oh, and you also have to spend the night in Anchorage in a hotel now because the flights arrive at 11 o'clock at night. So now suddenly this cruise that would have been way cheaper out of Seattle is way more expensive because now you're having to fly to Anchorage, and it's a one-way. And by the way, those are also the older ships in the industry, so you're not going to get as nice of a vessel. And then the other thing is you're also going to need a passport now because it's a one-way cruise, and you wouldn't have needed a passport out of Seattle. Things like that we intuitively know and can ask. Sometimes the price is not always the value. And there's a lot of extra costs that come with that, and hassle and time. So I think that's where we can really give a lot of value to say, this conversation ultimately may actually save you money, because even though this deal that you are finding that's being advertised, and it may be for May 3rd when it's still snowing out. Like, yes, it's a deal, but who wants to be in Alaska when it's snowing,
Yeah.
So the deals are always, that's
Sure, we're in California, so we don't think of May as being a problem, right?
right, exactly. But in Anchorage, it's still really cold, and the ships are getting there really early now because they want to get as many people to go to Alaska. But those are not the times you would want to be there. And I think having a conversation with somebody who understands that is going to be far more advantageous. And again, ultimately, the money is not worth it if you're not going to enjoy that experience. So it's not always about finding a deal. It's about finding what really works for you.
Right.
So it's really all about value. What you bring more than anything is value and
And
experience.
In service offerings, I mean, we get calls constantly. Oh, can you call and, change my last name because the VFIP number I had set up for this particular cruise line was in my maiden name. We're going to be the ones picking up the phone to do that for you. I know that sounds like a small feat, right? It smells like it, but that's why people utilize us, because they have a direct contact and we can help them manage those things. And we're the ones who call the cruise lines. We're the ones who sit on hold. And then all you get back is an email from us saying it's taken care of.
Mhm.
And to another point, there are online consolidators that do offer things sometimes at a advantageous reduced rate. However, one thing to keep in mind is that hotels, for example, resorts, they do prioritize virtuoso clients and their own luxury hotel programs that they run above some online consolidator bookings. So let's say that they have a group come in that needs a certain set of rooms. If you book through an online consolidator at a really reduced rate, you might be the first person that they kick out of the room. So you show up to the hotel, and unfortunately, it's called to walk a client. They walk you across the street to the next hotel. Because there is an internal, priority system set up, and so that's one thing that we can help our clients with too, to ensure that we have those relationships with the hotels and that we're calling ahead of time. Right before you travel, we're going to confirm all your transfers. We're going to confirm your rooms again with the supplier. And those are things that, because we try to front load everything and make sure that things run seamlessly. So we're in your court, right? And if things perhaps run awry, we're going to be the ones to call the supplier and have a conversation and try to remedy it as soon as possible.
That reminds me of an experience. I was in a hotel checking in, and the lady behind the desk said to the person in front of me, well, yes, but you booked through in the name of a low price hotel reservation company. And I thought, wow.
Yeah.
And so because who he booked through, he lost out. And after that, I never went to that site again. Never went to that site to book a hotel. I don't want to be in a position where I'm there, I need something, and well, we can't help you because you booked through. But of course, the consumer doesn't know that, right? They have no idea. Now, these are all really interesting things, and I think people don't think about this. It's like we all talk about why use an attorney, why use a good doctor, why use a good realtor, right? And all of these are really the same thing. You think you can save money on all of those things, but when it comes right down to it, you'd hate to be stuck somewhere and not have anybody to call and then be punished because you booked through the wrong site.
Yeah.
Right.
And actually, that's a good example of if something happened while you're in the middle of a trip, which happens all the time, a flight's canceled or you just simply missed your flight, or whatever. We have an air department. We have people who can actually go to bat for you with the airlines. So there's so many emergency situations where we are available. And again, even if you went to a larger travel agency, you're calling just a general hotline, hoping that somebody who's possibly across the world who answers that phone cares enough to actually, get down and help you. And I mean, we were working until 11 o'clock at night a couple of weeks ago on a Saturday when somebody missed their flight got screwed up. So, I mean, we were working to get this to them. And then by the morning, they showed up at LAX. They all had their flights corrected and changed. And I mean, that's the kind of customer service you're going to get when you're dealing with individual smaller companies versus a large, corporation.
Right. And I can give the example
Yeah.
last week when Miami was underwater and the surrounding areas. My client was having family fly into there, and then they were going to fly together to British Virgin Islands to be on a crude yacht for a week. And they were worried they weren't going to get in. And what was very assuring to my client is that they had purchased vacation travel protection, which included weather events. So there's a sense of comfort that they had because we took care of something 6 to 8 months ago that at the time didn't seem as important. But when you're being faced with these things up front and you know that you've insured your trip and your investment, then it gives you a little peace. And so I think at that moment, then those are the moments that you realize, oh, it was great that, Marilyn asked me about protecting my vacation and, in case, or if there are medical events, right? And maybe that's something you wouldn't have thought about otherwise if you weren't working with a travel advisor. We don't need insurance, or we don't need this and that. And, sometimes we can fill in those gaps.
That's really interesting.
Sorry, Valerie.
No, go ahead.
You had talked about scams, or Nancy had just mentioned that. And, there's a lot of online sites out there. There's some bigger ones that have been around a while and they're trustworthy, but there's a lot of fly-by-night companies, and people can create websites on the fly and collect money and, take all this money for a vacation, and they show up and they're not there,
Yeah.
So, we only deal with reputable companies on purpose. We will never send somebody to a company in the middle of Africa that's a good deal just because they're a good deal. We will only do ones that are highly vetted.
Yeah.
And I think that's a very important thing because, we've had clients come to us and say they found these great deals online. And we're like, we can't even figure out who these people are. They're in South Africa. They don't have a phone number they're answering. Like, why would you gamble $15,000 just because you're going to save $1,000 with a company you don't even know if they're really a company? You're just giving a company across the world your credit card number.
Yeah.
So that's another
Well, we
advantage.
certainly have seen scams in our business and in property management as well. And you just wonder how people get so gullible and how they are so willing to give in for just a few dollars. If it sounds too good to be true, or to be true, probably is too good to be true. Yeah. It's very interesting. All those are really good points. And I'm sure a lot of our listeners haven't thought about those things. And maybe some of them have had bad experiences. Maybe some of them never even realized that if their flight had been canceled or they were stuck somewhere, that had they had a travel advisor in their corner, that they could have called them and they would have taken care of it for them. I'm sure they probably just didn't even realize it. So how does someone choose a good travel advisor?
There are various ways. So a couple things I would suggest, a couple platforms that you can go on. And one is ASTA. So that's the main association that we have in the United States of travel advisors. So you can check, they have all their members are listed, and then they have their verified. There is no certification for our industry, unfortunately. So one thing you can do there is you can go and check who are verified travel advisors. Are they members of ASTA? The same thing you can do with suppliers to see if they're members of ASTA. And I'm not saying that everybody will be, but this is kind of the thing that comes to mind when you say, okay, how do you know right away? Another thing you can do is look on virtuoso.com and see which advisors are listed on there. There are varying consortia, so not just Virtuoso, but there's Signature, there's a few others. So those are kind of two things that come to top of mind right now that you can do to find somebody. I think it's great to support somebody in your local area. Trip Matters is located here in Tustin. They're a physical brick and mortar. Splurge Travel, I'm an independent contractor out of Huntington Beach. So sometimes it's nice just to look for somebody local, which is what a lot of people do on virtuoso.com, is they'll look for somebody in their area, or they'll look for somebody that has experience in the destination that they want to travel to. So if you go to virtuoso.com, I think ASTA may list it as well. You can see, they're a specialist in Germany or cruises, or, so you'll try to find somebody or groups like Marilyn's done. So those are kind of top of mind. Do you have any others you can think of? Any other?
I think industry-wise, she's dead on, but I think honestly, one of the best ways that we get new clients is referrals. And this
Oh,
is
true.
very much a
Yeah.
referral-based business. And I think if people have worked with somebody and feel like they connect with them, I think it's great to, not only give them that business in the future, but to send their friends to them. And, that's honestly, probably the biggest way we all continue. I mean, in real estate and so many different, areas, that is so much of how you build your business. But I think knowing, and having that confidence in somebody and feeling like that connection is there and being able to pass that along to your friends and family, it's great. And that's, if there's trust from you, then hopefully, that trust can continue with the next person, and, we can prove that. So, yeah.
Absolutely. So let's just talk 1 second, and then we're going to move on to some fun things like destinations. Not that what we've been talking about isn't fun, but it's a little more the business part of it. So all of our listeners aren't in your local area. And I know that we often use suppliers or vendors in different locations. So someone who's not in your local area can also call you. Is that correct?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So I think, and Nancy pointed out, I think it's always good to find someone who's a specialist in any given thing. I personally specialize in cruises. I sell everything and I work in all parts of the world, but I am very focused on cruises. I've personally been on over 60 cruises. I can attest to different brands and what the different ships can offer, different ages, different, people who are foodies, people who want more luxury, people who want a little more fun and more of a party. And that's where, again, qualifying somebody to really understand what they're looking for, either in a destination or a cruise or a hotel or, a tour, things like that, that makes a really big difference. But I think if you're looking for, especially, and you can search all this, of course, on Google and things like that, but, for what people specialize in. But I think that really is what makes or breaks a really good travel agent, is what the know-how of those unique things. As Nancy mentioned, she lived in Europe for a while, and I mean, I would trust her. Like she knows
Sure.
way more about Europe than I do, and I may know a
Sure.
little about cruises than she does. I know a lot about. So I think finding people who have specialty and searching kind of with that in mind will drive probably a better experience.
Absolutely. And for full transparency, I mean, if somebody came to me and said, Nancy, I want to get married, destination wedding, I would probably find somebody for them that I could suggest. I would reach out to my wider network. So the benefit of working with a travel advisor is we have a huge network. So I would reach out and I would find somebody who just excels in destination weddings. Same thing if somebody came to me and really just, wants to do a full Disney trip. Most likely I would also connect them with a Disney advisor. So, some of us kind of just we'll do everything, but then we maybe for certain things, we want to find somebody that really has niched out into that arena.
Right. And again, that goes back to deciding you want to do something like that and you try to search the whole thing and plan the whole vacation on your own. Some people can do that, not for me. So let's talk about travel destinations. Where are some popular summer places? We all think of things like, Disneyland, although those are year round. So what are some great places to go to in the summer? And what are some trends that you're seeing right now that we're all officially, I think, out of COVID? What are you seeing and what places do you recommend? Talk to us.
Perfect. Do you want me to go first?
Anyway.
So I'm going off to Alaska in a few weeks.
You are?
So this is a perfect time. I also know somebody else is there right now traveling as well. So I would say any time from probably May to September, October is good for Alaska. So it's the perfect time of year. You can also go to Alaska in winter for the Northern Lights, but it's a very different vacation, right? So I'm not saying you can't go there year round, but I would say amongst U.S. Americans, it's a very popular destination. The second thing I would like to mention is actually, doing a luxury train tour with Rocky Mountaineer, for example, the Canadian Rockies. So some people will actually do a cruise through Alaska southbound and then get on the Rocky Mountaineer through the Canadian Rockies. They have a couple different, I think 3 different routes that they do. And then they have a U.S. route that goes from the Red Rocks to the Rockies. So you can do Moab, Denver, or Denver, Moab. And I just went on that with my father. It was incredible. So I can talk a little bit more about that later. What other destinations would you say are really popular right now?
I mean, I think what What I'm really seeing people book, I think the farthest out, which probably goes to show the popularity, is the river cruises in Europe right now are going gangbusters.
Really?
What's crazy is it's not for this year right now. The ships are selling out right now for 2025. I have
Really?
sailing in April, and there's literally one cabin left on the boat for April next year. And that's how far people are booking these. And there's so many companies that are building boats as fast as possible in Europe, and they still sell out that quickly. They just can't build these boats fast enough. But they also only hold 150 to 190 people. So
Sure,
there's
there's small groups. Yeah.
yeah. So that's hugely popular. I think one of the more upcoming places I'm really seeing a new drive to is Portugal is becoming really trendy right now. It's very inexpensive, and people just say it's spectacular. It's
The
not,
people are so friendly.
and it's not overly crowded.
Mhm.
So you're not getting the huge crowds of like Italy and things like that there. So, and a lot of people are starting to go toward Asia now as well. I think a lot of people have seen Europe, and I think Tokyo or Japan in general is very popular right
The
now.
exchange rate is really beneficial right now for
Mhm.
America, for the people coming with the US dollar. So
Mhm.
people were doing ski vacations because you can get the what goodness gracious, what's the pass called that you get where you go to Mammoth and everything? But you can get the pass that includes parts of Japan as well. So people were even going there for skiing, but they're going to Japan year round right now because it's so popular. Another one in the US is probably the Great Lakes that have come out. There are several cruise lines, Viking, Penal, and Penal has a cooperation with Smithsonian Journeys. So they bring experts on board that can go in depth about the local area. So the Great Lakes is one of Penal's highest selling tour right now. And Scandinavia is actually becoming, as the Med gets hotter, people are shifting to go up to Scandinavia.
Mhm.
And one thing worth mentioning is that Norway is actually putting something in place, I think in 2026, that you'll no longer be able to go into the UNESCO fjords. There are a couple that are UNESCO certified, or I don't know what the proper term would be, and that aren't carbon neutral. So it's a good time to get into some of those fjords right now before 2026 if you're interested in doing so, because there may be some changes there. So I would say, yeah, the colder destinations up north are actually becoming more popular for summertime.
Yeah, I mean, I've seen a
Interesting.
lot of people from like Arizona or, hotter places in America who they want to escape the heat in summer. So they're really definitely going toward the Alaskas or the Northwest and just trying to get the cooler temperatures for the middle of summer to get out of the heat. So,
Well, let's talk about families traveling with kids. So I think there's certainly two kinds, especially of groups, is the family itself, where it has the children and the parents and everybody goes off on a trip. But also, I heard you talk about in a discussion we had where the grandparents take the children, the grandparents and the grandchildren. So talk to us about those kind of vacations.
Yeah, so the first thing that comes to mind, even they call it skip gen, because you're skipping a generation. I think some of those they're doing cruises or city trips, even going to dude ranches, because there's a lot on offer as far as the activities that they can do: fishing, rafting, shooting. Trying to think of horseback riding, ATVing. So there's a lot of opportunity there as far as in the Western United States with dude ranches. And then European city trips and cruises, I would say. So any opportunity where in one space you can find activities that actually speak to both groups, I would say those are great locations to,
yeah. My family personally we often have 3 generations. We do a lot of cruises that way as well. For exactly what you said, like the older generation can sit around and read and do what they want while the kids are doing the rock climbing wall or the ice skating or whatever it would be on the ship. And then everybody comes together at dinner. So, everybody can do what they want during the day and feel like they're getting their own vacation, but still spend time as a family at the end of the day. And, the lack of hassle is so fantastic. They just all meet at the same table for dinner, and then they can talk about what happened during that day. And do what they like, for their excursions or on the ship. Personally, also as a family, we really like Hawaii.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just we always go with 3 generations, and for years have done that, and that's just been fantastic. With my parents will go, and again, same thing. During the day, as the kids have gotten older, they do more of their own thing, but they're in the water 3/4 of the
Sure.
day.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And then
I'm sorry, are there cruise lines that have no children?
There are actually some. So if you want to kind of go the opposite direction and avoid the kids, there's the big one that everybody's advertising right now is Virgin Cruise Lines. Came out only a couple years ago. They're 18 plus for the whole fleet. And actually Viking as well is 18 plus. So you will never, if you're again trying to not be with children, those are great options for you. And honestly, the surveys that they've done, people say for Virgin in particular, the number one reason people choose that cruise line is to avoid children on that ship. It definitely gives a different edge, and I have been on it, and they very much lean toward like having fun, like with a party by the pool and kind of dance music and all that late into the night. But they also heavily focus on their athletics of any sort. They have really good gyms. They've got like boxing classes and boot camps and acrobatics classes and
Like
things like that.
wellness, yeah.
And all of that is built into the price of the cruise. But they also have a lot of really cool features that I personally got a kick out of. They had an 80s arcade, and it was all free. And it was literally like Pac-Man and Donkey Kong and Centipede, and I probably played 200 games of Centipede on that for free. And I had so much fun playing stuff from the 80s. And then they had, so that was just so much fun. And there's just so many things that they do to, even though they're catering to adults only, they're also kind of going back to what we all grew up with and had fun and making you feel like a child at heart, so.
Virgin Voyages is very eclectic and very, the demographic is very wide, actually.
It is.
Is that right?
Yeah.
And
true.
the other one that would be a small ship environment would be Windstar. They're also adults only.
Okay.
And they, because they're smaller ship, they can go to, unique ports and unique destinations. And the more that you move from a contemporary line, such as Royal, Carnival, etc., in the area of premium brands such as Princess, Holland, and then go up to the next Oceania, Azamara, Windstar, there'll probably be less kids on board just because even though they may allow children, for example, Regents allows children, they actually have some programming. Cunard has programming as well. They won't have the resort amenities like the water slides and the rock climbing wall and so forth. Therefore, you may, have less children on board, especially if you pick a journey that is over 7 days and maybe not running during spring break or summer vacation. So
let's talk about family vacation that's not cruising.
Okay.
I would love to take my kids and my little kids and show them London or Paris or wherever, but I know that they're going to get restless. So what kind of advice can you give to a family when they've got younger and let's just say even teenagers down? What kind of things can you help a family do or prepare for that's going to be good for everyone?
So if I think about,
is there such a possible vacation?
There is.
you can do city stays, with varying groups, from littles to teenagers. And what you have to do is kind of craft an itinerary that's going to speak to everybody. So I think in that regard, you're going to have to look at maybe getting connecting rooms at a hotel if you have more than, because European rooms tend to be smaller and sometimes you only have one single bed in the room. So maybe getting connecting rooms. So you have to, first of all, decide which type of property and type of room setup you need. And then the second thing is really deciding what excursions are going to speak to which in the group and that you have a nice mix. So there's a, what do you call it? Scavenger hunt. I had the German word Schnitzeljagd in my head.
Yeah.
At one of the museums in Paris. and the kids love it. So I think it's the Orsay. So you can book that online, and you're at the Orsay as an adult wanting to kind of enjoy all the art. And at the same time, your kids are having a blast. So I think it's about working with a travel advisor that's going to research, certain things, or maybe your teenagers really like to cook and you're in Italy and they want to do a pasta making course because, they all watch YouTube nowadays and they're following their favorite.
Yep.
So you can do, what is it, Cooking with Nona or Cooking by Nona. We have a client going there soon. So I think it's about figuring out, also, let's say Paris. I was able to seek out which parks are really cool for families to hang out at. They've got a carousel. They've got little boats that you can rent and then race on, like this little man-made lake. So it's about seeking out even things that are just part of the regular public infrastructure of where to kind of put in breaks in your day where everybody can get their wiggles out. You're not overly planning things. I think it's important with time change. That's one thing we need to consider, the time that you're on the airplane and whether you're going economy class.
Absolutely.
Or business class, or are you going to be laying flat, or are you going to be, that's going to all play into your recovery time of your first couple days. How do we craft those first couple days when you're dealing with a time change and maybe a child who's, people used to tell me, oh, babies don't have jet lag. Well, they very much so did when I was traveling with my baby. So these are all things that, Marilyn and I are both moms. So, we're both going to think about those things. How's that going to affect the wider family? And how do you craft something that has enough breathing room, but at the same time engages, various members of the family in different activities?
Yeah, those are all really great ideas. I didn't think about that, but yeah, I mean, it's real. You either get there and your kids are anxious to get out and run around and go see things and you're exhausted, or it's the other way around. You're ready to go and they want to relax and sleep for a couple days. And as we know, television in Europe and probably in most other countries, isn't it all the same? They can't just turn it on and watch everything they want to watch. So.
Yeah, when we went to London, my kids were teenagers at the time, and they had different interests. And actually, my husband took my younger daughter to the Harry Potter. It's actually where they filmed Harry Potter. So that was great for them, and they just did this whole experience that was more like a real version of a Universal. With the full actual set. And my older daughter and I went to Stratford-upon-Avon because she's an actress and she wanted to see where Shakespeare was from. And we divided and conquered that one day, and we both accomplished exactly what both child wanted. So that was really fantastic. But Nancy's right. There's got to be times where you kind of build in things that also serve for the adults. So it's really finding a nice break in different times of the day, or a couple of days are dedicated to the museums, but then you have a day where you've got nothing to do in particular, and you can all just wander around and shop and go to the park. So it's really important to build in the time to relax and have some flexibility with your schedule and day, because you don't know what you may discover when you get there. And if you're over planned, you go, oh,
Sure.
God, I didn't even know that museum existed until I walked past it.
Or the musician that's playing on the side of the street that's absolutely incredible, that you just want to sit and get a coffee and sit at a little cafe and watch the world go by and do some people watching.
Absolutely. Let's talk about, we're as we know, we could talk about travel forever, and certainly I plan on having you on at least one more of our shows. Let's talk about another one of my favorite subjects, which I don't do well or very often, and that's culinary travel. My dream is that someday we will go and rent a villa in the south of France, and we'll have a private chef that comes and takes care of us all week. So talk about those opportunities. What is culinary travel, and what do people do about that?
So I think there are some suppliers that you could look for, that's more a niche product probably, where you would look for somebody that would craft maybe an escorted tour that is shaped around food. And we're even seeing some of the bigger, well-known suppliers such as Globus or Tauk getting into some of those, arenas and shaping tours or tours around a certain topic. But you can also work with what we call boots on the ground, which is a destination management company, to that knows the local area really well, and they'll be able to also customize something for you. So you can work with your travel advisor to also, it depends. Do you want to be independent or do you want to be on an escorted tour? So that's one of the first questions you have about how do you want this trip to look for you? Do you want to have a tour director that you can lean on that will literally service your every need and is highly knowledgeable about the local area and will give you a lot of education along the way? Or are you more of an independent traveler? You know, do you want to just get that villa and have an under the Tuscan sun experience, where then we kind of craft people coming in or working with villas of distinction, and they can sometimes bring in private chefs, or you're going to do wine tours. So I mean, there are kind of packaged tours out there that we could seek out and look for depending on the budget, or we can work with a destination management company who lives and breathes that local area. So it just all depends on what the client wants. But I just know I'm a foodie. Everybody that knows me knows I love to eat. And so a lot of our past trips were actually planned just kind of surrounded on food. So we went to Emilia Romagna, which isn't the first region in Italy that a lot of people go to. They tend to stick to Rome and Venice and Florence and Cinque Terre and Amalfi Coast. Well, we went through that center area at the top and went to a local truffle festival that I found in the fall, and then went to the Ferrari or Lamborghini, and visited that. And then you can go to try special tiny tortellini that are from Modena. And then we went to a real villa that had real balsamic vinegar that's literally aged over 20 years. So you walk into the house and I mean, the vinegar just fills your nose, and you realize, and they come out with a tiny little bottle like this that's been aging for 20 years. So some of that, I've crafted myself, and we can do that for clients as well. So yes, I'm very food forward. Talk about food all day too.
And let's talk about solo travel. So if someone wants to travel by themselves, either they're a couple and one of them needs to go on their own or likes to travel on their own, or they're an individual who travels on their own because they're their own family. Can people who are on their own have a good time, and can they meet up with somebody? I see sometimes where people meet with people they meet with someone in a different city, or they meet up with different people, maybe have the same interests as they do. What kind of travel is available for solo travelers?
I mean, I would kind of start with granted, I always focus on cruises, but I see a lot of single travelers on cruises. There's different opportunities there. You can travel by yourself, or you can travel with groups of solos who all kind of go together at the same time. I happen to manage very large groups of single travelers, and we pair up, and we have multiple cruises throughout the year, and we even pair people up in cabins, have them converse and all that, but to save on the price, because usually when you're traveling by yourself, you're paying twice the price, because the hotel rooms, or in the case of this, a cruise ship room, it's the same price whether there's one or two people in there. So we give opportunities, especially I think for women who sometimes don't want to go. They're a little more hesitant to go like to Europe or something like that by themselves. We're giving you a group of people to travel with. We're literally leaving from LAX, for instance, and we'll get you to the city. We'll tour the city. We'll get on a river cruise and then come back together. So you never have to feel like you're alone in that. And it's not nearly as scary as going, I'm just going to get on an airplane by myself and find my way there. But if you also get like on an ocean cruise, even if you are truly by yourself on that, they offer singles meetups almost every day. And the cruise lines are also very good to pair up at dinner time tables of all of the single travelers. So, you may be one of 40 people and then they'll put you guys together at a table. So you've got now other people who are very similar to you in that situation going, I don't know anybody, but now I'm having dinner with a bunch of people who are in the same boat, literally and figuratively, as me. So I think it's a good opportunity. The other thing it's worth mentioning in terms of the price, the standard cruise lines you will find is twice the price. Sometimes the more premium cruise lines, you will find some single supplement deals to where if you are traveling, by yourself, you're paying instead of 200%, you're paying maybe 125% or 150% of the fare. So it's not, and everywhere once in a while, you won't pay any single supplement. And that's what sometimes we get privy to as travel agents that, they'll drop those in our lap. Our reps will say, hey, we've got some availability, in Turkey in 3 weeks from now or 2 months from now or whatever. For single supplements, we're not going to charge anything. And those are so rare that when we find them, we reach out to the people we know who like to travel that way, and can offer a much better deal. So,
Yeah.
Sure.
And the company I would like to highlight is G Adventures. They're a really wonderful company. They do small escorted tours. So think a Sprinter van, average is 12 to 16 people. They don't charge a solo supplement, but if you do want your own separate room, then there could be an additional fee depending on the particular day you want to go and how many people are already on the trip and whatnot, just kind of what the setup is. But G Adventures is a good opportunity for solo travelers. I think it also leans a little female heavy. I've got some statistics I can put out there if anybody has any questions that are from their website about that particular topic. And they actually cooperate with National Geographic. So, and we know Nat Geo. Yeah, Nat Geo doesn't put their name on just anything. They partner with specific people. So they have a little more elevated tours that are through Nat Geo, but they have 18 to 35 something groups. They have ones that are more for the hostel style travel.
Sure.
All of their classic product. And then they have Geo Lux, which is a new product they brought out, which is also has a few like higher end hotels mixed in there, but they're still very active itineraries. So they cover the whole world, it seems like, with travel, with short itineraries and long itineraries, and they can fit varying budgets. So I think G Adventures is a really good company to mention.
Ladies, we have, as we said at the beginning, and we know still we could go on for hours. And so we'll have to do this at least once or twice again. And there's some topics we didn't even cover today, like travel dupes and the roads less traveled, and hiking and bicycling and so many different things. But we're close to the end of our time on Always Ageless for today. So tell us if you've got some advice for someone. You have about 1 minute left. You've got some advice for someone who wants to plan a last minute travel for the summer. And then tell us how our listeners and our viewers can reach you.
Ooh. I'm on Instagram under @SplurgeTravel. I'm also on Virtuoso. Nancy Durabant. I know my last name isn't easy. My husband said, "Are you sure you want to take my name?" So I'm on Virtuoso as well. So you can reach out and with last minute travel, we would just have to, again, have a consultation and see where you want to go for what budget. And, depending on the location, see if there's any availability left. And maybe if it's a destination that isn't as popular or sold out, like Italy or something during the summer, you may have some luck. But there's so much to see that I'm sure that there would be something that we would find for you.
I'm sure there is. And Marilyn, any last minute advice?
I think advice right now is, silly as it sounds, start thinking about next year, because the popular
Sounds like
destinations
it, yeah.
are starting to sell out already. And for instance, like it used to be the fall trips, the New England trips, those would sell a couple months ahead of time. Those were sold out at the beginning of this year for, September. And that just blows my mind. I've never seen people book so far in advance. So there's only a limited availability throughout the world of any given product. So I think just, think ahead. If they'd like to reach out to me, I'm at Marilyn@tripmatters.net. That's my email address. And we also have a website of tripmatters.net. And I can give a phone number if you wish.
Sure.
Sure. 714-402-8069. That's my direct line. They can call me anytime. I'd be very happy to help with any travel.
We'll have it on the screen also for them. And we'll have your company information that our viewers can see as well, and our listeners will hear at the beginning. Thank you very, very much. This has been such a delight. and to think about travel in the summer in July. Of course, who wouldn't want to do that? And we do hope that you'll come back again. We thank you so much. We've down to just a few seconds left. So thank you for being our guests at Always Ageless, which is travel is available for everyone. So our viewers and listeners come and join us and reach out to these ladies.
Thank
Thanks
you,
so much.
Valerie.
Thank you.